Hello, welcome to another museum moment with Ellie Gettinger. I'm the educator at Jewish Museum Milwaukee, and I am delighted to be here today at camp. Well, pretend camp. Behind me, you can see an image from our collection from Camp Maccabee, which was in northern Wisconsin for many years until I think 1969. And this is a picture of their boathouse, which would show people in canoes doing the sorts of things people do in camping. And everybody's used to this time of year is high camp season. In fact, I think my daughter should be leaving either Wednesday this week or next week to go for a 4-week stint at Camp Interlaken. But we all know that COVID has slowed down all parts of the world, camp included. And there are very few camps that are offering in-person sessions. And those that are offering in-person camping this summer, it's so different. You know, people are wearing masks and it's separated and it's safe and it's still a camp experience, but it's not what you see behind you. And it's not the experience we all remember from growing up. So when we started thinking about this week of that would be in the middle of summer camp sessions, and summer camp is such a formative experience for so many of us, we thought maybe this would be a good week to explore a little bit of that broad history of summer camp. As with many of our Museum Moments topics, as I started getting into the research and looking at what we had and what was missing, I realized that probably we're going to have to do a whole series on camps, and I'm going to tell you the things that are missing today, but also let me know about your camp experience. What do you love about camp? What was your favorite part of camp? What camp did you go to? I see Donna Neubauer posted that she loved her experiences at Girl Scout camp. And I'm wondering, Donna, was that Girl Scout camp, was that in McGuanago, near where Bieber camp is today? So let us know. Everybody throw things out there. I'll try and check them out as I'm talking about camp. So camp, in talking about camp, we have to, take a moment to think about kind of this broader history of camp. And camp in America really started at the late 1800s. And the first camps were Catholic and Protestant. And the third kind of big thing that happens with camp is that there's this sense of social purpose around camp, which was really what we explored when we talked about the Children's Outing Association. The sense that camp was supposed to be a place that was responding to the needs of immigrants. And in this case, Jonathan Sarna, who wrote a book in 2006, he's an eminent historian from Brandeis about Jewish summer camping. He says, besides restoring poor, malnourished, ghetto-ridden Jews to renewed health and vigor, they also sought to build up the character of their charges and to do what they could to Americanize them. So many of these camps, unlike the COA camps, early incarnations, which were run by Jewish people, many of them were run by non-Jews and seen as a way of kind of taking them out of kind of their immigrant milieu and creating an American identity around them. This is actually a picture of the COA's original camp, and you can see it's, they're out in the woods. It's patriotic. You've got this lady with it's a bugle, but it's a pretty old picture, so it's a little hard to see. Camps change in their character and they bring in all sorts of identities. By the 1920s, no less a figure than the president of Harvard is saying, in order for Americans to be fully educated, they need to have some sort of camp experience. And camp at this point in the Jewish realm expands. It starts an expansion that then lasts for about the next 40 years. And there are all sorts of evolutions with this. One of these, and this isn't one of the things where it's like, what are things I'm missing? This is something I found in our archive that I love. It's from a camp that was located in Wild Rose, Wisconsin, on Kusel Lake, Camp Orna, and it was part of Hashomer Hatzair. The camp was purchased in 1940. So this is a little bit after that, but a lot of Zionist, labor Zionist camps are formed at this time period. And this one in particular is saying that it is a creative camp motivated by the spirit of pioneers in Palestine and the most virile aspects of American Jewish life. And they have gardens, and they're going to create kind of a kibbutz lifestyle within a camp. And I would love to know more about this. I know still in Wild Rose, Wisconsin, Camp Moshava is there. There's a lot of activity still in Wisconsin around camping. In 1936, there was a survey, and there were over 88 Jewish camps nationally. These include private camps, Federation-sponsored camps, Jewish community center camps, educational camps, Yiddish camps, Zionist camps, and philanthropic camps. The philanthropic camps and the Zionist camps we've kind of explored at this point. The Yiddish camps, grow and go fairly quickly in the next 10 years. The educational and religious camps are really the big growers, and the community-based camps are the big growers in the post-World War II sphere. And what I will say is, this is where I know I can do a whole other session about private camps in Wisconsin, because there is a whole set of genealogies around it where one founder comes in, runs a camp for many years, and then another family comes in and takes it over. And some of these camps like North Star and Kawaga have incredibly long histories and lineages, but I do not have the time to get to those today. So let's look at some of those kind of religious camps and the community camps and get into a sense of that. This is a camp in New York, and it no longer exists. This is a camp called Masad, and it started in 1941. The thing that I found fascinating about Masad is that they had an all Hebrew curriculum, and by design, they were going to create a camp full of Hebrew speakers. Now, they've invited all these people before the creation of the State of Israel into their camp, and they have to figure out how to convey camping type words in Hebrew, a language that is in this moment being resuscitated. So Masad has to come up with all sorts of words that then become utilized by Jews all over the world. In particular, most of the words for Hebrew sports, especially those that are American sports, kador basis, kador regel, football and baseball, kador sal, all of those came out of Masad. A number of very eminent Jewish people come out of Camp Masad too, including Alan Dershowitz and Ralph Lauren. Another group of people that come out of Camp Masad are the founders of Camp Ramah. And Ramah is the first big national movement camp that moves into Wisconsin in this time period. Ramah is founded by the Jewish Theological Seminary, and they see camping as a way to instill conservative Jewish values in a new generation. Now, interestingly, Jewish Theological Seminary is in New York, but they select Eagle River, Wisconsin, because they see this as an opportunity to bring the very strong conservative community in Chicago together around this camp. So this becomes their pilot program in camping. This is actually a picture of their first summer, and you can see that it is a white Shabbat and that the people are there. One of the things that's interesting is they had copied their original, what to bring to camp list from Camp Masad's list. So it included things like a tennis racket, which many of these people did not have, but went out and bought. And then there was no tennis court actually on camp premises at this time. Ramah becomes a national platform where there are Ramah camps all over the country. I went to Ramah in Massachusetts, and I was on staff at Ramah in Georgia. But this was the first incarnation of that. How can a movement be supported by its camp? And this is that first test. The reform movement sees the strength of Ramah, and it had also, even before this, been talking about, well, what do we do for this? And so they established the Union Institute, which becomes the Oling Sang-Ruby Union Institute in Oconomowoc, as a way of furthering kind of reform Jewish values. Initially, the camp is catering to teens and their parents, and of course it moves into kind of a full residential camping. This is a picture of their first summer as well. Let's see if anybody's told me any camps up. And there's lots of people here. So thank you. Hi, Cheryl Paley, all these people checking in. And let's keep going on what's going on at camp. So one of the people that comes out of Camp Sidney Cohen, which is a COA camp, is a guy named Jack Weiner, and he actually meets his wife Shirley here. We talk about this in my Can you tell them I'll be right back? Hi, everyone. Do you see me now? I'll give you all a minute. I'm so sorry. This has worked like a charm until this week, obviously. Luckily, my technical director, Mitch Nellis, came in and alerted me that I'd lost the feed. So I'm happy to have you guys back. I see we have Abby from Nashville who's saying that she was at Tel Yehuda. I've gone out again. Can you hear me now? So I'm not going to try to share my screen anymore, and I'm just going to talk and tell a story, and it'll be just fine. So as I was saying, Jack and Shirley Weiner met at COA. Jack Weiner becomes this kind of pivotal figure in camping in Wisconsin and does some amazing things. But one of the things he talks about in the creation of Camp Interlochen is this story from his oral history, which I love. He says, when the deal was closed on December 31st, 65, everybody went rushing to go home so they could celebrate New Year's. When it was done, I hadn't one camper. I hadn't one staff member. And I needed especially because I wanted it to be a good Jewish camp, I needed Jewish staff people. So I began to look, and I heard about a Tarot and her camping background. I called the director of Camp Hersel and I said, I'm stealing a Tarot. I'm going to take her. I need her, and she's Milwaukee, and she's what we need. And she has a camp background, so I'm going to take her. And I hired her. And we hired some other people, including some non-Jewish. One was a nun. Do you guys know this? The original scuba instructor at camp was a nun. But she was a scuba diver and she knew how to scuba dive. She was certified, so we took her. Another was an Indian guy from India, a Hindu from India, but he was a school teacher who wanted to start in a camp in India. So he did an internship. We took him and he was very good. We had a lot of Jewish staff, but they had no idea how to translate that into camping activity. Taryn and I had a tough time working that first year. So it was this real concept of how do you take camp and create camp, a Jewish camp. And so they had to get people from all over and create a real culture. Tarot later talks about that she was there for 18 years working as the director of camp, and how many marriages came out of camp under her tenure. 42, she credits. And all of the people who came through camp. And she said that this was really the success of her life, that and this is a woman who I will at some point probably do a whole museum moment about, that this is the thing that she credits as the big success of her life. I will say one of the things that Jewish Museum Milwaukee is missing is a picture of a Tarot Cohen working at Camp Interlochen or working in any of her early educational areas. The only picture we have is one of her much later in life. So if you've got an Tarot Cohen picture, please send it our way. Camps flourished in Wisconsin. There are all sorts of different camps that are still here to this day from all sorts of different backgrounds. One of those that came a little bit later, 1976, I believe, is Camp Bieber. And it was B'nai B'rith was looking for a location for its summer camp. It is both a camp that serves, students from, I think, 3rd through 10th grade-ish, but it also has a purpose with the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization where it serves as its training site, its CLTC site. So you get this one camp that comes later on. Camp is always evolving, and today there's still this big question of what camp looks like. And I think as people were examining a summer and thinking about a summer without camp, we had to really think about, was it worthwhile to have kids in camp in these kinds of challenging situations? And I think in some places you can see at Rainbow, they're doing an incredible job of keeping kids together and providing a camp atmosphere for them. And for others, it just wasn't worth all of the risks. But I know for me, I don't know that I would be doing this kind of work if I hadn't had my camp experience. And I know for many of the people I know that camp was the thing that gave them the kind of sense of Jewish fun, the sense of Jewish purpose, a sense of Jewish pride. And so I'm so excited to continue this conversation on Thursday when I talk to Tony Davis and Levenberg about Camp Interlochen's broader history and about where she sees it going. So join me again for that museum moment, 2:00 on Thursday. I can promise I'll work out the technical snafus. If you like this or any other museum moments, please check them out on YouTube or Facebook, and feel free to make a donation to Jewish Museum Milwaukee. Thanks so much for dropping by for this moment.